Hi, Assalamualaikum. Today I would like to present a topic about neural pathway of olfactory. First, let's go and see the anatomy of olfactory structures. First, we have a cerebriform plate, which is a light and spongy bone, thin and fragile bone, consists of a horizontal plate, perpendicular and two lateral, on left and right, riddled with thousands of tiny holes which axons of olfactory neurons pass through the brain. Next, we have nose. Nose is an organ of olfaction, of course, externally composed of cartilage and covered with skin, leads to nasal cavity, function to filter, warm and humidify air breath. Next, nasal cavity. We have nasal cavity is part of respiratory tract and lined with nasal mucosa, contains olfactory cells divided into two chambers. Next, we have olfactory bulbs. Olfactory bulbs is blueberry shaped and size extensions of brain, one for each nostril, and located inferior of frontal lobe of cerebrum, receive neural input regarding odors that detected. The terminals of olfactory receptors form synapse with dendrites and cell bodies of olfactory bulb nerves. So its function is to receive the information from the odor lah. Next, olfactory cortex. Olfactory cortex is responsible for processing smells directed from receptors in the nose. Bundle of neurons extends from the olfactory cortex down to the thalamus. Odor sensation happens here at the level of our nose and olfactory bulb, but olfactory perception occurs in our mind where our personal experiences with sense take over. Next, we have olfactory epithelium, which is a cell layer. It is cover inferior surface of cerebriform plate and consists of three kinds of cells: olfactory receptors, supporting cells, and basal cells. Olfactory nerve is a tiny filaments in the nasal walls. All the olfactory axon bundles is over there. The first cranial nerve conveys the sense of smells, formed by the axons of olfactory receptor neurons which project from the olfactory epithelium to the olfactory bulb. Next, we have olfactory receptors. This is the first order neurons of the olfactory pathway. Each is bipolar neuron with an exposed knob-shaped dendrite, an axon projecting through cerebriform plate and ending in the olfactory bulb. Olfactory heads. This one is one of the important components in this anatomy, which is a cilia that project from the dendrites, respond to inhaled chemicals. It detects odorants. Odorants is a chemical that have an odor and can stimulate the olfactory head. Later, I will tell you how it will stimulate it. Next, supporting cell. Supporting cells is a columnar epithelial cells of mucous membrane lining the nose, provide physical support, nourishment, and electrical insulation for the olfactory receptors to send the message. Next, it helps detoxify chemicals that come in contact. Next, we have basal cells. Basal cells is a stem cells located between the bases of the supporting cells and continually undergo cell division to produce new olfactory receptors which live for only a month. So basically, olfactory receptors contains this, based on the picture, contains this structure. It has olfactory hair, supporting cells, basal cells, and other components which have their own functions and to carry out the smells, carry out the response of smells. Last one is olfactory, or also called as Bowman's gland. It is used to produce mucus that is carried to the surface of the epithelium ducts. Secretion moistens the surface of the affected epithelium and dissolves odorants so that transduction can occur. The secretion helps for the odor to be transmitted to be processed by the olfactory hairs and olfactory receptor so that the message could be sent to the olfactory cortex. So supporting cells and olfactory gland are innervated by autonomic neurons which branches of the facial nerve which can be stimulated by certain chemical. Impulse in this nerve system stimulate lacriminal glands in eyes and nasal mucous glands. So this will result in tears and runny nose after inhaling substance such as pepper or vapor of household ammonia. That is why our smells and eyes reaction is our nose and eyes reaction usually go along together. Okay, next we will see the physiology of olfaction. First, olfactory receptors react to odor molecules, and then a general potential or actual potential of depolarization develops and triggers one or more nerve impulse. An odorant binds to an olfactory receptor protein in plasma membrane of an olfactory hair, and then olfactory receptor protein is coupled to a membrane protein called a G protein. It will activate the enzyme adenylate silase. It will result into production of cyclicardamycin monophosphate. Next, there will be an opening of sodium ion, which is natrium channels, natrium positive, and inflow of natrium positive. Next, it will depolarization generated potential will happen and generation of nerve impulse and propagation along an axon of the olfactory receptor. Basically, this physiology of olfaction is explaining how the olfactory receptors react to chemical stimulation that will generally activate the action potential with causing depolarization to the nerve impulse in, to start sending the message and to start carrying the impulse to generate the impulse to send the message to the brain. As you can see here, this is the picture of the process. As you can see, olfactory receptor protein will receive an odor molecule and then it will turn to G protein, will be then release the adenylate cyclase and eventually acts on natrium positive channel and it flows of the natrium positive and causing depolarization generated potential and and eventually depolarization of olfactory receptor some membrane triggers action potential. Olfactory pathway is where it explains about the pathway of olfactory to a receptor, olfactory receptor, and to the nerve and to the brain, and how the nerve will supply along the pathway and to finally receive by the brain about the message, about the information. Okay, first, unmyelinated axons of olfactory receptors extend to foramina in the cerebriform plate of ethmoid bone, which is under our nose here. Collectively form the right and left olfactory nerve. When they bind together, they form an olfactory nerve that go through the cerebriform plate. And next, they will terminate in the brain in paired masses of gray matter called the olfactory bulb, where it has each one on its sides, on right and left, laterally. And then the axon terminals of olfactory receptors form synapse with the dendrites and cell bodies of olfactory bulb. In the olfactory bulb, there's actually a cell body in the neurons that will carry the impulse and send the information to the brain. Axons of olfactory bulb, neurons extend posteriorly and form olfactory tract. When they reach the olfactory tract, they will be divided into two responses. First, there will be lateral olfactory striate and medial olfactory striate. Each carries different roles. First, lateral will carries axon to the olfactory area of the cerebral cortex, which is called periamygdaloid and periperiform. Meanwhile, the medial one will carry fibers that cross median plane in the anterior commissure to pass to the olfactory bulb of the opposite side. They will carry to the olfactory bulb on the other side. And then they both meet each other again and form a primary olfactory cortex, which conscious awareness of smell begins, or odor identification and discrimination in orbital frontal area, which is called area 1. And then it will go through into the secondary olfactory cortex, the entorhinal area, which is area 28 of the parahippocampal gyrus, which receives numerous connections from the primary olfactory cortex. So as you can see in the photo is showing the area of the olfactory cortex, which is area 11 and area 28. And then the primary olfactory cortex sends nerve fibers to many other centers within the brain, the limbic system, and the hypothalamus to establish connections for emotional and autonomic response to olfactory function, such as when we smell hot chocolate, we know, oh, it reminds me of Christmas. Sometimes people associate smell with memory. And at the end, the olfactory afferent pathway has only two neurons and reaches the cerebral cortex without synapsing in one of the thalamic nuclei. As we know, thalamus is a function for a bridge of information. However, olfactory pathway does not include it. It directly sends to the brain directly, not through any bridges, and the information will receive directly. That is all for me. Thank you.